Good afternoon. Yale University acknowledges that Indigenous peoples and nations, including Mohegan, Mashantucket Pequot, Eastern Pequot, Schaghticoke, Golden Hill Paugussett, Niantic, and the Quinnipiac and other Algonquian-speaking peoples have stewarded through the generations the lands and waterways of what is now the state of Connecticut. We honor and respect the enduring relationship that exists between these peoples and nations and this land. The Divinity School recognizes the role that Christianity played in colonization movements and repudiates the use of Christianity or any other religion for the purposes of oppression. We encourage all to work for justice in the aftermath of colonization and to reject racism and anti-Indigenous attitudes in all forms.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome, everyone, to the 324th year of Yale University, the 203rd year of Yale Divinity School as a distinct unit within this university, the 53rd year of Berkeley Divinity School, led by Andrew McGowan as part of this university, the 52nd year of the Institute of Sacred Music, led by Martin Jean here in this university, and the 9th year of Andover Newton here at Yale Divinity School. I am sure you feel like I do. I spent all day in a retreat, my 5th, and you have been oriented until you feel like, I'm sure, I've had all the orientation that I really want. It is time to begin, and this marks your official beginning. We mark this new year through a formal academic exercise. And while there are different aspects to this particular event, one of the most important is to introduce new members of our community. So if I call your name, would you please stand and we'll recognize you. First, Ryan Darr is a new assistant professor here at Yale Divinity School of Religion, Ethics, and the Environment, coming to us most recently from the ISM, where he's a postdoctoral associate. So Ryan, welcome. We have two new faculty members who are not here today. Instead, they are in Germany on research leaves. This is Nina Globetek and Gabriel Reynolds, who will join us next fall as assistant professors of liturgy. So you have a chance to welcome them at that time. Also joining us a little bit later this year is Ra Anand Bustan, who will be a presidential visiting fellow and should be here in another week and will offer a course in Judaism this spring. He's currently a member of the faculty at Princeton University. This summer, a number of new staff have joined us, and I'd like to recognize them. I don't know if all of them are here, but Clifford Anderson is the new, there he is right there, new director of the Yale Divinity School Library. Macy Bridge, who graduated last year right here, is the new operations coordinator for the Center for Faith and Culture. And I don't know if she's here, Muriel Drake will begin next week. Is Muriel here? She may not be. She doesn't start till next week, so that's why she's not here. But she will be working in the Office for Student Affairs. And finally, Joelle Syracuse is the new Senior Administrative Assistant for the brand new office of the Senior Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs. I don't know if Joelle is here, she may not be, but I want to recognize the brand new Senior Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs, Professor Jennifer Hurt. Jennifer, would you stand? We have also promoted Associate Dean Joyce Mercer to Senior Associate Dean for Academic Affairs. Joyce, would you stand and let us recognize you? And I want to express a very special word of thanks, and this will be somebody important to all of you, to Professor Volker Lepine. Chloe Starr, who's the director of the MAR program, is on leave this fall in England. Professor Lepine is filling in for her. John Pittard, who's the director of the MDiv program, will be on leave this spring, and Professor Lepine is filling in for John. So if you don't know him, you're going to know him. Volker, would you stand up and let us recognize you? Thank you. The largest group of new people is quite clearly the 128 new degree-seeking students. We welcome each and every one of you. We have 78 MAR, 44 MDiv, and 6 STM students. 21% of you, which is I think the highest percentage, at least since I've been dean, of you are international students. And it's wonderful to have such a diverse group joining us from literally all over the globe: South America, Africa, Europe, China. But if you think of the continent, you can probably meet one of our international students this year. You range in age from 20 to 68. So I always like to give the age at commencement. You'll hear this. So we've had one as young as 16 graduate. Yeah, that's pretty unbelievable. I like it when they're in their 70s so I can give somebody a degree who's older than I am. But so we welcome all of you, whether you're young or senior, mature, we'll say. But to all of you, we welcome you, and we welcome back, and I must say it is always nice to see familiar faces, 183 returning students, which means that we have 311 students. Our goal is 300, so we're a little over, but that's great. We welcome all 311 of you, and we welcome our exchange students coming from Copenhagen and from Germany, and there may be some other place, Hong Kong this fall. Thank you. Thank you. So to all of you, a very special welcome. I like to recognize all of the people who were engaged in BTFO. 17 students worked assiduously and creatively to make orientation a very meaningful experience. If you were one of the student group leaders, if you were on the hospitality committee, if you were serving the international students, would you stand up and let us give you a round of applause to express our appreciation. It won't be as obvious to all of you as it is to some of us, but there were 2 staff people who simply knocked themselves out, not just the last month, but they've been working on this since January and probably before. So Vicki and Kit, would you come up just for a minute? We use this occasion also to introduce student leaders and sometimes new faculty. So I'm very grateful to Chris Frymouth for reading the land acknowledgement statement. Chris designed and installed all of the vegetation around the labyrinth this last spring and early summer. So if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. It's quite beautiful. He spent the summer photographing the flora and fauna here at the Divinity School, and his photographs will become an art display later this year in the new Kroll entrance hall. So Chris, we thank you. It's most appropriate you read this statement for us. We also have two very important student leaders. I think you've all met them, but let's introduce them. They're going to read for us today. So the president of the Student Council, Mary Elizabeth, will be reading one of our scriptures, and the president of the Yale Black Seminarians will be reading the other scripture. Morinike will be doing that for us, and we're grateful to both of you for your roles and for reading for us today. We also introduced some new faculty. Now, they're not all these are brand new. First, Ryan Darr will lead the benediction. He's brand new, I just introduced him. Here for the first time last year as a full-time member of our faculty is Todney Thomas, who in just a minute will lead our invocation. Two well-established faculty, Jan Lin, who was a faculty marshal, and Jan earned tenure this last year. So we recognize her earning of tenure by having her lead us. And our speaker is none other than Laura Nasrallah, who came to us from Harvard and is now the Buckingham Professor of New Testament Criticism and Interpretation here and has a fully joint appointment with Religious Studies. She is the author of 4 major monographs, including Ancient Christians and the Power of Curses. This just came out recently, Magic, Aesthetics, and Justice, which just appeared this summer. But she's also known for her expertise not only in text, but in material culture. And if you haven't read this and you're interested in the New Testament, you should read Archaeology in the Letters of Paul, which is not only in hardback, but in paperback. And I'm only mentioning 2 for the sake of time. But she's edited 3 other volumes, written 2 others, edited 3 others, and has well over 35 scholarly articles and chapters. She's won a number of prestigious awards, but let me just summarize in this way. On Thursday, she's going to travel to Oslo, Norway to receive an honorary doctorate. And so that is as high a recognition as one can get. And Laura, we're very grateful to you for your role on our faculty and for gracing us with this lecture today, or this, I don't know if it's a sermon or a lecture, we'll find out in a minute. It can be any of those. It's entitled Divinity, Divination, and Dice. Todney, would you turn us towards God?
To the Creator, who speaks into the void and makes it so, help us remember the power of our speech. May we use the spark of our words to make our world better. To the One, who also exists in multiplicity, guide us in our navigation of complexity. May we learn to dwell in spaces of the both and not just the either or. To the Power that beget the angel who wrestled with Jacob, afford us blessings in our struggles with doubt, especially in difficult times like these. May we cultivate an action-oriented faith of heart, craft, and hands. To the Presence, who walked with Hagar and Ishmael and kept their promise. remind us that you are a God of the otherwise. May we commit to tracing genealogies and knowledges that inhabit the wilds, clearings, and undercommons, and not just the most traveled pathways. To the precocious, incarnated one, who left his parents at the age of 12 to engage teachers with his questions, sanctify the exchanges of our collective study. May we conjure the ground of call and response and a renewed enthusiasm for learning. To the omniscience, who begat the diviners, seers, prophetesses, who sit with us in uncertainty and questioning. Bless the questions, bless the querent, bless the spaces of the in-between, between the worlds we have and the worlds we dream, until we can make it so. Amen and Ashe.
A reading from 1 John 4:16b through 21. God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. Love has been perfected among us in this, that we may have boldness on the day of judgment, because as he is, so are we in this world. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not reached perfection in love. We love because God first loved us. Those who say, "I love God," and hate a sibling are liars. For those who do not love a sibling whom they have not seen cannot love God, whom they have not seen. The commandment we have from God is this: those who love God must love their siblings also.
A reading from the Gospel of the Lots of Mary. They will trust you, and you will be victorious in this matter. Strengthen your heart. This matter is from God. Fear not. As for you, everything you will do, God is with you. Behold, the difficult time passed for you. Behold, the hour of rest has come upon you. Simply be brave. You will see the confidence in God that will reach you, and he will send the angel of peace, and he will guide you and give you rest. Stop being of two minds, O human. Whether this thing will happen or not, yes, it will happen. Be brave and do not be of two minds, because it will remain with you a long time, and you will receive happiness and joy.
Thank you for doing those readings. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with and to you today as we face with joy and hope and some fear this academic year. On your first day of class, you may feel anxious among your student colleagues and professor colleagues, wondering if you'll say something wrong, wondering where you fit in. Also feel sympathy for us, for your faculty who will stand before you in the following days. Feel some sympathy for me, standing here before you among the collective genius of you, the students, of the faculty, and of the staff. And following the lead of Dean Sterling, let me name only those who have recently received some promotions so that you'll know the dire straits I'm in, my nervousness at this moment. Professor Michael Beth Dinkler, deep scholar of literary criticism, narrative, the Acts of the Apostles, and so much more, has been named head of Timothy Dwight College. Dr. Matthew Kozman, who teaches the extremely popular Life Worth Living course and is co-author of the best-selling Life Worth Living, A Guide to What Matters Most, is now senior lecturer. Dean Sarah Drummond has been reappointed at Andover Newton, to the joy of our Andover Newton people, and Professors Jennifer Hurt and Joyce Mercer. There's a little spider here, I'm just gonna take care of it. Professors Jennifer Hurt and Joyce Mercer, as we've heard, have ascended to senior associate deans. All three use their scholarship in ministerial leadership, in ethics, and in pastoral theology as foundations to make our community better. Sally Promy is now Caroline Washburn Professor in Religion and Art, and we eagerly and imminently wait her new book full of beautiful images, transforming our mind towards materiality in religion. Professor Willie Jennings is now the Andrew W. Mellon Professor of Systematic Theology and Africana Studies, as if any chair could contain that creativity in moving across genres or the moral depth and urgency of his work. As if there was a way to enhance Professor Braxton Shelley's amazing triple status within the ISM, YDS, and the Department of Music, he is now full professor. His new book, An Eternal Pitch on Bishop G.E. Patterson, will transform your understanding of both hearing and matter, on the partitive and transformative nature of holiness, on the enduring note that Patterson repeated, "Praise the Lord, for God's mercy endureth forever." Some of you probably came here to study with now full Professor Lynn Tonstad, whose sharp intellect moves from New Testament text to the Trinity to queer theology. To present my own mashup of a homily with a lecture before our now tenured Professor Danielle McCrae is truly terrifying. Her art is superb. Her beautiful analysis of and beautiful writing about the rhetorics of Julian of Norwich, Polly Murray, and so many others is inspiring. New Testament and so much more scholar Yi Jan Lin is now tenured. Her brilliant book, Immigration and Apocalypse, out this fall, which in our painful political moment helps us to think about race, immigration, and biblical interpretation. These are colleagues without whom our own learning would not be so bright. And I want to also mention our new registrar, Jamie Yan Tan, without which our knowledge would be nowhere at all. Registrars are what makes things work. These are all our colleagues who, without whom our practices would not be deep, colleagues who spur us to greater thought and virtues, colleagues in the ecclesia, in the assembly, with whom we enter in deliberative debate. I celebrate that you can study with them in this new year and beyond, and let's give them a round of applause. In the ancient Mediterranean world, which is the topic of my research and my teaching and my unrequited love, people threw dice. They threw the kind of six-sided dice that you find in the board games with which my children mercilessly tormented each other and me on summer vacation. People in antiquity threw four-sided dice made from sheep's bones. Sometimes they were cheaters, and they threw weighted dice, as archaeologists have discovered. And people in antiquity often used dice to figure out what the divine had to say about their present and their futures. Why am I telling you about this at a precious moment at the beginning of this new school year? I'm in the middle of thinking a lot about divination in my scholarship, and scholars with new research projects are like people who hustle up to you with their phones, with pictures of their cats or their babies. It's always on our mind, and we hope you'll be polite about our enthusiasm. But I also mentioned divination because I'm interested in thinking with you about this moment. This moment as our school year begins, this moment in the world when we might feel a good deal of uncertainty, when we too might want to divine with the divine something about our present and our future. The hymn we sang is a modification of the words of Mary in Luke 1, sung before Elizabeth. Here we find the speech of poor Jewish women in a first century CE Judean town in the hill country, tucked away in the desert, perhaps somewhere near Jerusalem, perhaps in the area of today's West Bank. Inscriptional evidence indicates the presence of 6 Roman military units in the area. Tensions were arising between various Jewish groups and between Jews and Romans. 2 women conspire. They breathe together, and one asks, could the world be about to turn? How do we live in hope and fear and love in uncertain times? Ancient Christians used randomizing procedures, which we call sortition devices or divinatory devices, in order to discern something about an uncertain present and uncertain futures. They borrowed and evolved these practices within their larger world, adapting from their contemporaries who worshiped various gods, including the god of the Jews. Sometimes they rolled dice or astragaloi, sheep's knuckles, to find the answers to their heartfelt questions. Let me give you one example, the sortes astramsichi, perhaps composed in the 1st century CE, and for which we have evidence in a papyrus from around 236 CE. These sortes, or lots, are named for the famously wise and exotic Magus, Astramsicus, rumored to have hailed from Egypt or Persia. A ritual expert would likely sit with a petitioner. That person would articulate a question about their life or their future, and the literate ritual expert would help them by looking up a similar question identified by a number. For those of you going into the priesthood, we know that some of these ritual experts were ancient priests and eventually Christian clergy. Whether it was a side gig or part of their whole practice, I'm not sure. A table allowed the ritual expert to look up a corresponding answer to the inquiry. Let me read you some of the questions. They strike me as exceedingly boring and poignant, the stuff of humanity. Will I find what I've lost? Will I be a teacher? Will I survive the sickness? Will I open a workshop? Will I have a long life? Am I going to marry my girlfriend? Will I get my deposit back? Am I going to be sold? The stuff of humanity and the tragedy of the slave state that was the Roman Empire. The sortes astramsichi are a Greek text that had come into being in the Roman period and was gradually Christianized in Greek and also adopted into a Latin lot system, the sortes sagalenses, as Anna Marie Leyendyk and William Klingshirn write. By the 5th or the 6th century, explains Randall Stewart, some questions were transformed into queries of a specifically Christian interest, and the corresponding answers were appropriately adjusted. A question which had read, will I be reconciled to my girlfriend, became, will I become a bishop? Could the world be about to turn? Could the world be about to turn for me? These are questions with which we wrestle in every generation, in our own hearts and communities and schools, in churches and mosques and museums, in sanghas and temples, in public squares and at our dinner tables. In Mediterranean antiquity, ancient Christians among Jews and Platonists and Aristotelians and worshippers of Apollo and Isis and other gods engaged in a debate that was simultaneously cosmological and philosophical and theological. Did divine providence stop at the limits of the moon? Or did it extend past the heavens into the sublunary realm, and how? Does God or do the gods care for the world and even for me? Does God speak to the world and even to me? Evidence of one way of thinking about this, of practicing it, comes from one of today's, oh my goodness, this spider is just so persistent. Comes from one of today's readings, the Gospel of the Lots of Mary. I like to think of this text as a scriptural reading, and you voiced it as a kind of scriptural reading, because it engages and weaves together authoritative texts, some from the Bible. That is, it is an instantiation of scriptural practice. From refrigerator magnets to bumper stickers to handmade signs at protest marches, scriptures get used. The Gospel of the Lots of Mary is a text from Egypt, perhaps a 6th century Coptic text. Well, it is a Coptic text, perhaps 6th century. It's a miniature codex, precious evidence of religious thought and practice in North Africa in antiquity. Written on parchment, this codex would nestle comfortably in the palm of your hand. Anna Marie Leyendyk, who published it, carefully observes that upon opening it, you see at the edges of the pages, toward the middle, on the margins left and right, a stain. Here likely lay the thumbs of the ritual expert who flipped through this miniature codex called the Gospel of the Lots of Mary, listening to the questions of the inquirer, seeking to help them to truth. This tiny sortition device wove together allusions to the Bible, and it's boldly called a gospel, good news for the one who sought aid and answers and insights, perhaps at a troubled time. Each page of this codex offered an answer to someone's query, perhaps a randomized answer discovered through a form of bibliomancy. I don't know if any of you have done the flip the Bible open, point at the verse, get an answer, right? The codex begins this way: the Gospel of the Lots of Mary, the mother of the Lord Jesus Christ, she to whom Gabriel, the archangel, brought the good news. The one who will go forward with their whole heart will obtain what they seek, only do not be of two minds. The ritual expert, likely Christian clergy, opens the book to the inquirer. Perhaps they talk. The seeker determines their question. In this interchange, we meet the Jewish girl Mary, and her encounter with Gabriel might recall to the inquirer and to the ritual expert the version of the story. In Luke, she stands in Nazareth in Galilee, in a town then and now of religious diversity, a town then and now of ethnic diversity. The inquirer becomes like Mary, the mother of Jesus, with the angel Gabriel, inquiring, seeking, finding, suffused with good news, with gospel. In speaking with the ritual expert, and perhaps with the help of dice or merely flipping to the page, an answer comes to light. You might receive this oracle, number 14. They will trust you and you will be victorious in this matter. Strengthen your heart. The matter is from God. Fear not. As for you, everything you will do, God is with you. Or you might receive this oracle. Stop being of two minds, O human, whether this thing will happen or not. Yes, it will happen. Be brave and don't be of two minds, because it will remain with you a long time and you will receive happiness and joy. And today I'd like to think that some of the words are for you or for us as we face the small private fears of the semester. Another oracle says, behold, the difficult time has passed for you. Admission season is over and you are here. Behold, the hour of rest has come upon you. Not yet, but fall break will come. Brief as it is, simply be brave. You will see the confidence in God that will reach you. Maybe here we find the echo of our experiences with those who ask questions of the sortes astram psyche, those who came to encounter this Gospel of the Lots of Mary. Maybe you yourself come to this day of joy and nervousness and newness, bringing with you the questions and sorrows from this past summer and years past, wondering how or if God cares to answer. There are those of you who have lost a beloved grandmother who reminded you of the goodness of God. There are those among us who have lost a brother. There are those who have lost a precious child. How, you may have asked, and you may still ask, can the goodness of God be manifest in this sublunary realm where we alongside other beings suffer? It is a chancy world. You consult the Coptic book, the ritual expert reads from it, the Gospel of the Lots of Mary might say to you again words that are comforting but not enough. Behold, the difficult time has passed for you. God will send an angel of peace, and God will guide you and give you rest. These divination devices were one mechanism, one practice in that larger world of philosophical and theological debate. They were built out of the machinery of Scripture, and earlier sortition devices. The words of these divinatory devices were not only for the individual, spoken in secret in their hearts. These ancient procedures relied upon and materialized philosophical and theological ideas of belief in God and in divinity and in daimones, in the power of the heavenly and or sublunar beings, including humans. These are words of community endeavor. The book was written by someone. The ancient seeker sought out a ritual expert. Mary and Gabriel are invoked. God, God's self is invoked. Who is present for you? As you may be asking today, how is the world about to turn? What communities of call? What families? What ancestors? We are never ourselves alone. We have others who brought us here and to whom we answer. Do not let a lovely elite university like Yale distract you from that community. Use Yale to help you to serve it. We are called to a bigger world, to greater service. We may be here to do divinity because we think that the world is about to turn, and we want to put our small shoulders to it. So in the ancient Mediterranean world, we find evidence that Christians, Jews, and those who participated in Greco-Roman religions all seem to have used divination. People want to know what is up in the world. I wanted to talk to you about divination and sortition today because I think this fall feels like a chancy endeavor. It does for me, at least. We are excited to be here at the start of another glorious fall. We're excited to learn and write, perhaps even to divine together. And in the context of a new school year, we also come face to face with events and weighty legacies of the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attacks on October 7th, with the more than 100 Israeli hostages that remain, with anti-Jewish hate speech. We come face to face with the continued atrocities inflicted on Gaza and on Palestinians today, day 326 of the war, with anti-Arab sentiment, with Islamophobia. We come face to face with a lack of understanding of the simple historical fact that Christianity arose as a Jewish sect in an area called Syria, Palestina, as a Jewish sect among other Jewish sects, and immediately itself was historically contingent and diverse. We come face to face with a presidential election in the United States among the rising articulation of white supremacy, which relies upon Christianity and, yes, the Bible. We come face to face with anti-Semitism that is entwined with anti-Blackness. I think of the first pages of J. Cameron Carter's Race, a Theological Account, which is entwined with ideas like a Muslim ban in the pathologies of US culture. We come face to face with tensions on university campuses, with the aftermath of policing last year, with the question of what this year will look like. These may feel like uncertain times, hopeful as well as anxious. They certainly do to me. It is hard to hear the words of the ancient Christian Egyptian oracle, "Fear not," and "Be brave," in the midst of a world that seems arbitrary, that brings for theologians an endless supply of events that ground debates about theodicy, the justice of the divine. It is hard to hear the words "fear not" and to believe them in our times and places of white supremacy, in an anti-Black world that murders Sonia Massey in her home, in a world in which people are taken hostages from their safe rooms and murdered, in a world of fighting in Ukraine, of conflict and cholera in Sudan, starvation in Yemen, in a world in which massacre and murder continue day by day and night by night in the Middle East. It is hard to hear the words "be brave" and to know that we are entangled and implicated in these injustices. If anyone tells you that the situation today is not complicated, they are deeply right. It is a simple truth that no one should be taken hostage. No one should be murdered at home boiling water or at home hiding in a safe room. No Holocaust should ever have occurred. No genocide should occur in Gaza or anywhere else. And if anyone tells you that the situation today is not complicated, they are profoundly wrong. It is always complicated. As a Christian institution, Yale Divinity School, under the leadership of Dean Sterling and the Yale Anti-Slavery Project, have been researching and wrestling with the legacies of enslavement that literally built this institution, that fund its endowment, that are tied into its very name. Yale can deepen that thinking and be a model for other universities in that action and also in moving towards reparation. Our dean has also formed a committee to consider how YDS should wrestle with supersessionism, the Christian practice of thinking that Christianity eclipses Judaism, that the Hebrew Bible is a mere preface to that tiny bit, my bit, that follows the Christian scriptures, supersession, that DNA of much anti-Semitic thought and action. Within our Yale Divinity Library archives are records of Christian missions that undergirded the settler colonialism of the United States, the topic of Professor Tisa Wenger's important research and teaching, and that funded missions in what we today call the Middle East, missions that failed to convert Muslims and instead turned to converting Christians, Maronites, Orthodox, and others, away from the forms of Christianity that had flourished in the region. I say this as someone implicated and entangled within these histories, as you perhaps are. I am the product of elite US schools established for Christian ministers and funded, past and present, on profits from enslavement, built on native grounds, implicated in the hierarchies of knowledge. I earn my salary, thank you, from one of these, and you will earn your degree. I say this as a Lebanese American Protestant woman, and as a New Testament scholar, I know well the corroding anti-Semitism that has grounded my field. Susanna Heschel's book, Aryan Jesus, shows how the Institute for the Study and Eradication of Jewish Influence on German Church Life, that's the title of that institute, and New Testament scholarship are intertwined. I'm a product of Western Christian missions to my already Christian ancestors in Lebanon. I am great-granddaughter of Messihiye Berberi Nasrallah, a so-called Bible woman who, influenced by a Scottish mission, fostered Bible studies in her native village of Hadaf, south of Beirut. It's always complicated. That's why we're here. That is why tomorrow we begin our work. Your work includes the practice of study, of reading, of listening, of writing, of singing, of serving, of learning deeply. Our study and investigations, this is the work of being here, can enhance our ethics, our empathy, our action. The earliest evidence we have of Christ followers is that they called themselves ecclesiae. We translate this churches and get the wrong impression. Solid Gothic buildings, or maybe the glow of a storefront church, or a space like this, Marquand Chapel. All that's fine and good, but it takes away from the political nature of the term ecclesia, assembly, the term used for convenings in the Greek city-states, even under the Roman Empire. These are sites of deliberative discourse, which is to say, they're sites for the use of careful rhetorics for persuasion and debate. The earliest materials that we have which make up the Christian Testament are not treatises, but letters, not gospel narratives, but scraps and bits of communication between people distant from each other, including those of low status and the enslaved. They demonstrate that Christ followers from the very beginning did not always agree. They demonstrate that communities were made up largely of non-Jews, of Gentiles who wanted to affiliate with Judaism in the 1st century CE. They wanted to be included in what was not theirs, a covenantal relationship with the God of the Jews, and with a Christos, or an anointed one, from among the genos, or the race of the Jews. They demonstrate that one legacy of Christianity drawn from its Jewish and Greek neighbors was to stand in the assembly and participate in bold speech, in free speech, and in debate, the sort of thing that we do in the university. Christianity started in struggle, it continues in struggle. Come, let us reason together, these communities might say, as they sought truth, disagreed with and among each other, figured out their practical theologies, they conspired, they breathed together in the tongues of humans and angels, debating exactly how the divine cared for them and how they were to care for the world. How do we make the Divinity School such a site of conspiring, of breathing together, of a beloved community which is also the commons which is also the undercommons? I take the last term from Stefano Harney and Fred Moten. Those who have taken my classes know that I quote this almost every first class of the semester. Spoiler alert for people in my class this term. Stefano Harney and Fred Moten write, "Worry about the university. This is the injunction today in the United States, one with a long history. Call for its restoration, call for its reform, call out to it as it calls to you. But for the subversive intellectual, all this goes on upstairs in polite company among the rational men. After all, the subversive intellectual came under false pretenses with bad documents, out of love. The university needs what she bears but cannot bear what she brings. And on top of all that, she disappears. She disappears into the underground, the down low, low down maroon community of the university, into the undercommons of enlightenment where the work gets done, where the work gets subverted, where the revolution is still black, still strong. What is that work and what is its social capacity for both reproducing the university and producing fugitivity? This is the challenge and the promise that Harney and Moten offer in the midst of the university. How can we work to make the university what it professes to be, full of spaces of safety, not securitization? How can we make the university into an intergenerational community striving toward the common good, free and easy in creativity and beauty for New Haven and for the world? How can we make it, as 1 John says, a place full of bold speech, parousia in Greek, on the day of judgment, a space where love, always in the process of being perfected, can cast out fear? And I'm thinking here too with our own Willie Jennings after whiteness and education and theological belonging. In the passage from 1 John, the word perfect appears 3 times. Love has been perfected among us. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out all fear. Whomever fears has not reached perfection in love. The Greek root signals something about the work of accomplishment, the idea of completion. Whatever perfect love is, whatever love being perfected is, it requires practice and study. We are here to learn, including learning about making the capacities of the university. Today, some of you enter Yale Divinity School for the first time, and others re-enter our purposes here, purposes of learning and humility. Not humiliation, but humility before all that we have to learn as historians and theologians, from statisticians and ethnographers, from activists and religious leaders. I still believe that our universities and our churches, our mosques and our bembes and our synagogues, even our art museums, are sites for quasi-utopian thought and practices. The uniqueness of a divinity school, something that often makes the larger universities suspicious of us, is that normative, ethical, engaged work is fostered here, just as descriptive historical philological work is. Within our curriculum, within each of you, and I hope in each of us faculty and staff, we cultivate our areas of study, which are sites of our labor, as simultaneously important, obscure, impactful, nerdy, dangerous, delightful. The oracles of the 6th century Coptic miniature codex may not be for us. Fear not, be brave. Today, these might be dangerous words or nonsensical. They remind us, though, that in other times and places, rituals could be enacted in which you could meet the seeming randomness of your life with the seeming randomness of the cast of the dice, and that a divine word and care would be present and would answer you. Ritual expert conspired with petitioner and with the divine itself. Maybe within the university, you can conspire into the space of the undercommons. Maybe within the university, we can carve out spaces for study, spaces to rout anti-Semitism, to seek justice for Palestinians, to embody a world where anti-Blackness and racism are investigated and remediated. Maybe within these spaces, you are the oracle. You stand among us, listening and learning and then speaking. Maybe within these spaces we are all sublunary beings, hoping for divine care, seeking to perfect love and to make a turning world of difference. We say to each other, fear not, be brave.
now you understand why she's getting an honorary doctorate this weekend. But Laura, thank you for setting the stage for the year so powerfully and so articulately. I think it helped all of us to think about this year. We're deeply grateful. I should always look at my notes more carefully because I forgot Jamie Tan. Jamie, would you stand up? She is the new registrar right back here when I was introducing new staff. All of you will get to know her. So we're very grateful she's joined us. I also want to say a word of thanks to Lynn Haverset, and I don't know if she's here, and Elaine Ronciato. They both are right next to me in the dean's area, but they are responsible for helping to coordinate this whole event and for what is about ready to follow, because following the procession of the faculty out, we invite you to join us in the old refectory for reception. We do several things here pretty well. We study and work hard, but we also like to party. So tonight we're going to have a party, and I hope you'll join us. So would you please wait until the faculty have recessed and then join us in the old refectory. Ryan, would you lead us in a benediction? Please stand if you would.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we give thanks for the start of a new academic year, for the gift of this new academic year, even for those who do not currently feel it to be a gift. We give thanks for the blessing that it is to have space and time to think, to discuss, to question, to listen, to practice, and to imagine. We give thanks, too, for the community with whom we will do these things, for the relationships that, when they are nurtured, will enrich our reflection and sustain us through the joys and trials of an academic year. We also remember that we begin this year in a world at war, in a world wounded by intersecting injustices, in a world in which the climate is every day becoming further destabilized. And we know that YDS is not disconnected from such things. We carry these realities in our minds and our bodies, and we bring them into the classroom, the chapel, and every space that we share. We ask that you form us together into a community capable of standing against evil and injustice, as well as a community capable of living into the joy of the new and better ways of being that you offer. As we go from here, we ask, too, for the blessings of your grace and mercy, that we might share them with one another, with our neighbors, and with the world we are called to love. Amen.